very big day for the Jewish people, and it's what we call a day of forgiveness. So I really want to talk about that, because right now we are in finishing 2020, and out of the many things that happened this year, one of the big heats of discussions is the cancel culture. So I want to speak about that for a minute, because although it's important to, if you have a problem going on, to point it out and get the problem solved, but then there's online shaming, and I don't think that's such a Jewish value. So let's talk about that for a while, because shaming is definitely not a Jewish value. You'd rather be ashamed than shame somebody else, but you don't want to be the one shaming others. That's the last thing you want to do, and especially in our generation. So I actually on Rosh Hashanah, right? I know you guys might remember, but there was a story last year in Israel of a Chabad rabbi in the airport who was giving out a tefillin. And, that's what the Chabad does, and it's beautiful. And he was giving out tefillin to different people. He was offering, you want to wrap the tefillin, the Jewish wraps. It was in the airport in Israel, Ben Gurion. And all of a sudden, a professor from Haifa, I think, doesn't make a difference, she came up to him and started screaming. She started telling him, Kfiyat datit, you religious coercion, you're forcing people to do things, this is ridiculous, why are you doing this, get out of here, put it away. And it got really heated, and someone was filming the whole thing. Filmed the whole thing, uploaded it on Facebook, and boom. The next day, it was on all the news sites, it was everywhere, and millions of people saw that same clip of this lady screaming at a Chabad rabbi. And the big conversation was, what is he doing so wrong already? This is, at the end of the day, a Jewish country. What happened to our people? Why are we so embarrassed of who we are? We're so accepting of everybody else. We're not accepting of our own. And boom, 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 thousands of people were just shaming this lady who shamed the Chabad rabbi. That's true, she shouldn't have done that. But thousands and millions of people are now shaming this lady. And it got to a point where the Chabad rabbi himself came out and he spoke about it. And he said, honestly, I was hurt by what happened, but I want to tell you, I still don't feel that she deserved what you all gave her. That was not justified. The fact that she's lost her job, everybody knows that she's embarrassed her family. She's an embarrassed grandmother now. Her kids are not talking to her properly. Her own relationship is hurt. Her job is basically lost. No one's talking to her. She's lost her life. She's destroyed that. No matter what she did to me, she does not deserve all of that as a result. There's no way that that's what she deserves. And it's very true. This happened last year within the Jewish community. What happened this year? Thousands of things. I don't know if you know about Jimmy Fallon, and about 20 years ago they found a time where he dressed up as a black person, and they said, if that's what you do, we're canceling you. That was 20 years ago. Okay, Paw Patrol, they made this movie about this policeman. Cancel the show. There was a show which had 32 seasons. That's a long time, right? 32 seasons, long time. It's called The Cops. I don't know about any of these, but I just know that show also went through a lot of cancel. There was a movie made from 1939 called Gone with the Mind. Does that make sense? Right? And that apparently got through a ton of there's these sites now, hashtags called hashtag yes you're a racist, hashtag racist on the way, where as soon as someone says something that's a bit off, or what we think is a bit off, and we'll talk about it, they are now publicized, they lose their job, they lose their everything, they lose all their earnings, their money. And this has happened not just once, twice, but in so many areas, especially with famous people, until a point where they had this, Harper's Magazine brought out an open letter where hundreds of famous celebrities and popular people signed it, saying we've got to change something in regards to the cancel culture. And there's this guy, this is the craziest guy, there's this guy, I think his name is Emmanuel Cafferty, right? And he, shouldn't even say his name because I'm embarrassing him right now, but he worked for San Diego Gas and Electricity Company, and he was caught doing the OK sign. So now, today, the OK sign also looks like WP, which means white power. And obviously that's racist, but he was like bending his knuckles on the, he's a Mexican man. He had his hand sticking out the car, and he had his hand in the shape of the OK sign, and he was bending his knuckles, and that was it. That was it. Someone took a he was in the car, someone was going along whilst he was driving, took a picture of his hand and posted it. Boom. That guy lost 2 days later, he got thrown out of his job. His name was embarrassed. He lost everything. Everyone who knew him was saying that this is terrible. I can't believe this is what he did. And basically, he was completely shamed till he found out. And he's like, I don't even understand what it is. I don't know what this sign is. That's always what I do when I'm driving. I crack my knuckles like that. That's how I crack my knuckles. And he said that this is not justified. What I went through does not make sense. No one knows the full story. No one came to me to ask me about it. But because it was posted as a short clip, without going to a judge, without going to a court, you brought the court case right to me, and in an unjustified way, without actually finding the real case, right? The normal way of bringing justice to the world is having an investigation. That's how Jews work. We have what we call two witnesses. And unless I had two witnesses that were there throughout the entire story, spoke to him or her, warned them, told them that you shouldn't have done it, and they did it, then we can know for sure they are guilty, at least if we go to court. And the court, but with no court, to have thousands of people make this person lose his job, lose his family, lose his friends, imagine his kids in school, everything, that person's life is destroyed. And this is what's happening to many, many people. So what's the problem? Although, yes, we need to bring justice. And by the way, it goes to everything else. Oh, my restaurant didn't serve me my food on time. Boom, let's take a picture, share it on Facebook, share it on social media. No finding out, no bigger story. That's it. It didn't work for me. Let's take it to social media, and that poor business gets destroyed. Is it fair for the entire business to be destroyed for the small mistake that he did? So here's my problem with this. Okay, first of all, it's not justified. The balance is not justified. Somebody does something wrong. That's true, it's wrong, you shouldn't do it. But to cause that person to destroy his entire life, literally almost like killing him, it says that if you take somebody's money to a point where he owns nothing, he's like a dead person. Ani chashiv kamet. You make him poor by having no friends, no money, no job, nothing. You've killed them. Why kill somebody just because of that? So I think, number one, it's not justified to take an argument or something that's not comfortable for you to the public straight away without finding the full investigation to the case isn't justified for that person. It's not fair. Number two is no benefit of the doubt. We don't see the full story. Number three, there's no dialogue. What happens is that we oppress free speech in the name of free speech. So when I say, let's stop this person, let's cancel this, and I have the freedom to post, I have the freedom to put this on social media, cancel this person, right? So I'm using my free speech, but I'm also blocking free speech because now I've not allowed the other side to speak. I'm not allowing the other side to give over their view, and I'm not allowing their view to be heard, because if it's different to mine, they have to be cancelled. So there's no dialogue. It's actually destroying the purpose of the whole thing in the first place. The whole point of the thing in the first is that we can have free speech. And now what's happening is it's being destroyed. People are going to be afraid to speak. So you're dehumanizing people by doing that, right? Because they're now labeled as a certain type, and you've dehumanized them in ways of shame. Shame is one of the most painful things. It says, Mutav likfotz lektoch kivshan shel ha'esh. You'd rather jump into a pillar of fire than embarrass somebody. That's how important it is to not embarrass someone. And the last thing is, it claims that all humans are perfect. Oh, everyone needs to be perfect to me. If they're not perfect, they have to go public and the whole world needs to shame them. Hello, are we all perfect? No one's perfect anyway. People make mistakes. But I want to tell you the last point that no one thinks about. These are things that everyone talks about, why we should cancel the cancel culture. But there's one thing that no one's talking about, and that's called forgiveness. Cancel culture doesn't give room for forgiveness. In fact, it doesn't let forgiveness. Because even if 2 days or a week later you say, I'm sorry, I didn't intend for this to happen, it's too late. 10 million people watched that video. Boom, your life's destroyed. Lost your job, lost your friends, lost your family, lost your kids. Everyone's embarrassed of you. You've destroyed your life. Why? Because of cancel culture. So the claim that we can just take things out to social media freely because I'm free to do it doesn't leave room for forgiveness. Have you ever heard of can you not say sorry? Can somebody not say, is anyone here perfect? Anyone perfect? Can no one say sorry? Do you never say sorry to yourself? Do you never ask yourself for forgiveness? We always make mistakes, but no one else can make mistakes to me. I can make mistakes to myself for sure. No, we need to change something here. Forgiveness is such an important value in Judaism, and that's exactly what I want to get through, because that's what Yom Kippur is all about. So on Yom Kippur, what are we really celebrating? What are we doing? And I want to take you through something. So I was once called by a person that was in prison. He was convicted for doing terrible things. He was underage, so he had a more lenient way to get out of it. But he did terrible, terrible things. And he called me up and told me, Rabbi, I want to speak to you. He's actually a famous guy today, and because he speaks in public a lot. And I forgot his name now. It's not ringing the bell, but I gave a class last year about him. And he called me up from prison. He said, I know that you're the rabbi nearest to us. I want to know if I am forgiven, if I can ever be forgiven for what I did. And I said, listen, when it comes to humans, maybe the forgiveness is limited. If you kill somebody, how can that family forgive you, right? There's a limit. You can't bring that person's life back. Right? So there's a limit to your forgiveness. But when it comes to God, there's no end to forgiveness. That's why, according to Judaism, before we are told that certain things were created before the world was created. One of them was Teshuva, which means to make amendments or to do repentance. Teshuva was created before the world was created. That's why. Why was it? What does that mean even? Like, is it a thing? Is it like a piece? What does it mean that Teshuva was created, repentance was created before the world was created? What does that mean? I want to tell you what it means. It means like this. If I do something wrong, if I steal, okay, the reality should be that I get the repercussions for my stealing. In a real world, we say that God is Baruch Dayan HaEmet. He is a true judge. He's a judge of truth, meaning he's a judge. He brings justice to the world. We don't always see it immediately, and the reason for that is so that I can have free will. I've spoken about this. I'm just going to go quickly into this point. But if I do something wrong and I see the repercussions of doing wrong immediately, and if I do good, I see the reward of doing good immediately in this world, then I won't have free will. I'll obviously only do good and never do bad. If I steal money, immediately from my account, I lose 3 times the amount of money that I stole. If I give charity, immediately in my account, I triple the amount of money I have in my account. Will I ever steal? Will I ever want to not give? Of course I'd want to give. I get 3 times. It's a great investment. So the reason why we don't see, this is by the way the answer to suffering, the reason why we don't see the result of our bad actions and the result of good actions immediately is because we need to be in a world of free will where we can choose between good and bad. It needs to be our own decision. And that's why it's hidden from us. So Teshuvah was created, why? Why was Teshuvah, repentance, created before the world was created? And the answer is very simple. Because if it wasn't, I would need to get my repercussions immediately. if Teshuva, the concept of Teshuva wasn't created before the world was created, so I would really, if I stole, I would need to get that repercussion, because truth says that as soon as you do something wrong, you should deserve to get the karma of that wrong that you did. That's just truth. That's what truth means. Truth means justice, period. Immediate, no waiting. And that's one of the ways of God. So in order to be in this world, we have to be in a world of free will. So therefore, Teshuva was one of the things that was created before the world was created. That's just to let you know what was created before the world. So Yom Kippur is a day of forgiveness. Every year, God says, come to me and I'll forgive you if you do Teshuva. If you make amendments, you say, I don't want to do this anymore. You admit that you did it wrong and you make a commitment to not do it again. It's all wiped off. It's as if you never did anything. Yom Kippur wipes it off. There's only a few things that needs Teshuvah, Yom Kippur, and death as well to wipe off everything. But most things are wiped off with Yom Kippur and complete repentance when you say, I don't want to do this again. I know this was bad. This is not the way that I should have been. I want to improve. So what do we do on Yom Kippur? One of the things that we do on Yom Kippur, and this is because of the story of the Jewish people with the golden calf. Don't want to bore you here, but just quickly, the Jewish people sinned with the golden calf. After they received the Torah, they said, hey, Moses isn't coming down. We can't relate to an infinite being, which is God. I need to have something which I can relate to. So they brought this golden calf and they served it. Terrible. So the time that they were forgiven, when God said, Salachti kidvarecha, when God said, I forgive you, was on Yom Kippur. And that's why this energy of forgiveness is with us every year. By the way, we get Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur every year. Have you ever wondered, why do we have it every year? It's kind of strange. Give me one Yom Kippur, boom. If I say sorry, good. If not, not. How many? Can you imagine a kid does something wrong, and then you say, okay, I forgive you. And then he does the same thing wrong again. You say, I forgive you. Same thing wrong again. I forgive you. How many times? How many times can you forgive? But for some reason, Judaism knew from the beginning that there's always going to be a Yom Kippur every year. Which means that we know it's in our DNA that it's normal for us to make mistakes. It's normal. Judaism recognizes that no one's perfect. Hey, I've got news for you. No one in the Torah comes out as perfect. Almost no one. Okay? But Moshe Rabbeinu, our leader, Moses, Adam Harishon, the first person in the Torah, mistakes. That's what you learn about is his mistakes. Noach, you learn about his mistakes. You learn about, from one generation, you learn Cain and Abel. You just learn about humanity's natural way of making mistakes, meaning I expect you to fall, but the wisdom is to keep getting up. Judaism recognizes that it's normal to fail. How do I know that? Because it was created before the world was created. If Teshuvah, repentance, is created before the world was created, it means that it's normal for people to fall. And Judaism knows that because all the leaders in the Torah are not God. They're human. And all of the leaders in the Torah make mistakes. Oh, that's interesting. They're not perfect? No, they're not. They're just like me and you. We all make mistakes. So one of the things we do is we get forgiven. Now that's crazy. How does God forgive us? Because that's what we need to plug into. Because we need to take that energy. On Yom Kippur, we read something called the Yud Gimel Midot. 13 attributes of forgiveness, or what I say, of patience, of God's waiting, of God's tolerance. There's 13 ways that he governs the world in terms of not giving the repercussions immediately to my actions and allowing time to come. Remember the story of the flood in the Torah? How long did it take for the flood to happen? Chaos, absolute chaos. The entire society couldn't live with. How long did it take it to happen? Does anyone know? 2,000 years. That's a long time, right? Because God waits. He said, wait, let's wait a bit more. And so it's getting to a point where it's just so dangerous. If it would continue, it's just going to go backwards. But what I want to tell you is that the concept of patience, waiting, tolerance is such a Jewish value because we couldn't survive without it. And we need to learn, and we have a gift called the 13 attributes of God's way of having tolerance on the world, God's way of having mercy on the world. And we're going to talk about those 13 different attributes. I'm going to go through them. 13 ways that God governs the world in terms of not giving me the repercussions immediately, not giving karma immediately. And we actually say these constantly throughout Yom Kippur. The whole of Yom Kippur, we keep saying these 13 attributes. And you might ask, what's the point of saying them to God? It's like, hey God, you're really awesome. Hey God, it's not for him. God's infinite, it's for me. Because I need to learn those attributes of forgiveness so that I can fill my purpose in this world. The more I act like God, the more I will be forgiven. You see, Judaism believes the way you forgive others is the way God will forgive you. The way you judge others is the way God will judge you. Okay? So what we want to do is plug in to that forgiveness that was used to create us and to keep us alive right now, today, when we make mistakes, and we're still alive even though we still make mistakes, because of Teshuva, because of these attributes of mercy. So what are these 13 energies that allow us to continue to exist? And if we plug into them and use them with the people around us, that's what we need to do when we think about on Yom Kippur, when we read those 13 attributes. We need to think about these energies and how I want to put them into my life. I want to have those energies with the people around me in my life. And if I do, then that is a great process in my Teshuva, in my repentance, and becoming a new person, renewed, washed and renewed person. So let's go through these 13 attributes. I'm going to go through them pretty quickly in the next half an hour, but really giving you some beautiful energy for this Yom Kippur, something different. Okay, so I want to ask who's here who wouldn't mind to write in the chat every time I say the first one. You write in the chat. Someone do it. Okay. So when I say the first one, write in the chat the first attribute. Okay. So the first attribute is Mi El Kamocha. Who is like you, God? Okay. So that's attribute number one. There's no one like you. So we need to see what that means, okay? So here's the attribute of there's no one like you. It means like this. We understand that the creator of the universe is infinite. He knows, Yodea kol hanistarot. He knows all of what goes on in your life. It's the best judge to have, by the way. The best judge is that knows all of you, exactly all your story, all your challenges, all your problems, all of your right difficulties. That's the best judge, because I don't want to have a judge that doesn't know really, and I need someone to stand up for me, a lawyer to stand up for me and defend me. I want the best judge who knows everything about me. That's why we're happy on Yom Kippur. So there's no one like you. What's unique about God? He knows everything about us. He gives my heartbeat, and my blood is pumping, and my livers are working, and my system is working constantly because he allows it to constantly work. It says, Oseh ma'aseh bereshit b'chol yom tamid. Every second of this universe that it exists, God is allowing it and is recreating it. So what we need to do is plug into that energy. What's that energy? Here's the energy. God allows me, this is no one like you. He allows me, even when I do something wrong. Can you imagine a murderer committing an act of murder? And who's pumping his heart at that time? Do you understand what's going on? Who's allowing him to breathe that oxygen at that time? Who's allowing his brain to work at that time? Right? According to Judaism, it's the creator of the universe. That's crazy. You allow somebody to do something which is wrong whilst you nurture him in ways that we can't even comprehend. Only the greatest scientist may get a tenth or even 1% of what God really does to us at every second. Can you imagine what happens to us at every second? And here you have, even when I do something wrong, my heart is still pumping, my lungs are working, my organs are functioning, my brain is working, my eyes are working, and all of these body parts are working by who? The Creator, and He allows me to do it. So that's what we call Mi El Kamocha. Why is that? And this is what we need to learn with others. We need to learn that we should have patience, just like God has patience. That even though He nurtures me, feeds me, does good to me, He says, okay, you did something wrong, but I'm going to wait because I know that one day you're going to come back. I know that one day you're going to turn things around. You'll grow up. You're just a teenager now. You're just Yetzer Adam Ra Minu Ra. You're just young and you're just a teenager. I know things are going to change. So there's that idea of being like God where I am helping you. I am being there for you and you're doing this to me and I don't get offended. Right? So that's the energy that I want to get into. Mia kamocha, being the giver that doesn't get offended. That's the first energy. I'm sorry, there's a lot of words there, but how would I translate the first attribute is giving and not being offended. Okay? It says it's better to be offended than to be the offendee, the offender. Right? So it's better. What would you rather be? A Nazi or a Jew in the Holocaust? The Nazi most thinks he's going to survive. The Jew thinks he's not going to survive. Right? The Nazi has all the power and the energy and the control. The Jew is thinking, I'm not going to live very long. My life is I feel like dirt. I've been treated like dirt. What would you rather be? Deep down, what would you rather be in that situation? The terrible, evil Nazi, or a person that's your life is hanging on the brink in the hands of the Nazi? I'd much rather be in the hands of a Nazi than be a Nazi myself. 100%, hands down. To be a Nazi, there's no way. I'd rather be the person that the Nazi's hurting. That's what we need to be. It says actually that if somebody embarrasses you in public, do you know what you should do? You should stay quiet and make a prayer at that time. The holiest moment of prayer. You know this? At that moment that someone offends you, the holiest moment in Judaism. Close your eyes and start saying, Hashem, I don't know, but I need this, this, and this. Boom. Try it out. At the time that you are embarrassed is the time, or that you are, so to speak, the victim, is the time that you can have the most power in silence. We don't realize this. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't stand up for ourselves if we can, and it shouldn't mean that we should avoid being a victim if we can, right? But in the moment where it's not in my control, I've been embarrassed in public. It was not in my control. At that moment, that's a very holy energy. And if I channel it well, boom. It's a moment of blessing. That's what we want to be. And that's the godly energy of number one, which is, I give you so much and then you did that to me. I gave you everything. I gave you your heartbeat, your life from the minute you were born till this second. And now you're betraying me? So to take betrayal at the highest level that cannot be even described in words, that's number one. Okay, number two. Attribute number two that we want to have is Noseh Avon. He carries the sin. Not only does he know about everything, but he also carries it. Now, this means a whole new level. Okay? It means that I forgive. It means that I wait. I don't forgive yet, but I wait. I have patience again. Okay? So, Noseh Avon means I bear the sin. It means I have patience. Here, I wrote down. And not only do I have patience, this is a higher level, I deal with that person's problems as well at the same time. For instance, I help somebody, a father to his child. A father wants his child to go through education. He wants his child to go to school. Okay? Of course. What happens if year after year after year, the parent sees that his child's just not academic, it's just not working. So not only is it not academic, he just can't. By the time it's 15, it's like the school says it's just a waste of time. Please, no more school for this kid. He's not made for school. And the child doesn't want to be there. He's crying every day, hates it. It's a terrible situation. So eventually the parent says, you know what, maybe it's better that he works. By the way, according to Judaism, a rebellious child that's not able to be in school, an academic, should not have to stay in school. We believe that actually a melacha, obviously, I'm not talking about child labor, but we believe that work actually gives a sense of value to the person, gives them appreciation, a sense of self-worth, and sometimes it can help somebody. It's just a general idea. But here, let's say a child is rebellious, not made for school, and goes to work. Now, a good parent would not say, oh, my child's not going in the way I want. I wanted my child to be a doctor, a lawyer, whatever. He's not going in the way I want. That's it, done. Right? That's not what a good parent would do. A good parent would say, if this is the path that you need to be on, so that's the path you need to be on, and I'm going to be there for you on this path. Not only am I going to be on this path for you, I will not say, oh, you deal with your problems. This is your problem. Oh yeah? You find work hard, so it's your problem that you find it hard. You chose to leave school. See? Right? That's not the way that a good parent would work. A good parent would say, I understand that this is the path that you need to be on. Obviously, out of not just saying that straight away. You obviously push at first for the child to be in school because that's the right thing. But at a certain point when you really recognize this is where he needs to be, I understand that this is the path you need to be on, and I'm going to help you. I'm going to be there with you all the way through. I'm not going to say, hey, take the heat, son, right? Take the, whatever it is, it's your problem. No, I'm going to be there for them all the way through. So that's called noseh avon. God bears sin. We actually understand that when I do something wrong, Kabbalistically, an angel is created. An energy is created. What's an angel? An energy. An energy that I have caused in this world is now created, and it's going to do stuff. God doesn't say, hey, that energy is created. Go back to the person that created you, which is me. If I did something wrong, it should go back to and take him. Take his you want to be fed? Be fed from him. God doesn't do that. He takes hold of that energy and locks it up. This is what we're taught Kabbalistically. He locks up the energy and holds it and says, I'm going to wait. I'm not going to let this negative energy come back into the world for now. I'm going to hold on to this energy and I'm going to wait for that person to say, I regret it, I forget it, I don't want it, and then I'll destroy that energy. God will remove the energy eventually himself. But the idea here is that God holds on to that bad energy. He doesn't say, hey, you eat what you created. You deal with it because you created it. He actually bears the challenge. So that's what we should aim to do as well, is to be those people in the relationships with others that don't say, oh, that was the choice you made. That was the mistake you made. Why should I be there for you? And that's exactly the attribute, the second attribute, which is noseh avon. Let's go to the third attribute, v'over al pesha. Okay, number 3 is over al pesha. This is finally, number 3 is Hashem forgives the mistake. Okay, so we finally come to the point where there's actually forgiveness. Now here's the crazy thing. How does God forgive? What's the ultimate place of forgiveness? The place of forgiveness is when I directly forgive, not using other parties. A text message. Hey, somebody messages you, hey, I'm so sorry for what happened last year. I didn't mean it. I've been thinking about it so much this past year. I've had a lot of reflection, and I just want to ask you my forgiveness. And you respond back and you say, okay, forgiven. Huh? No, that's not the attribute of forgiveness. Not through a text message and not through a middle party. The attribute of forgiveness is you call that number immediately and you say, that is so amazing of you. I forgive you. I appreciate it and I forgive you. So there's a number of reasons why I would forgive, right? I'd forgive because I don't want to bear the pain of holding on to that grudge, right? There's a pain. When somebody hurts me and I don't forgive, one of the reasons why children are always happy, I spoke about this in the past, but one of the children why children are always happy, think about it, they're always happy. One of the reasons is because they'd rather forgive, they'd rather be happy than be right. This is what the Baal HaTanya says. I'd rather be happy than right. What does that mean? Look, somebody comes up to them, bumps into them, and hurts them, and they fall on the floor. What does the kid do? He starts crying. He looks up at his friend and says, why did he do that? If it happened to us, it will take us 2 days to forgive that person. 5 seconds later, the kid's happy. He's playing with that kid again. He cried, wiped away his tears, back into the game, playing again with the other kid, completely forgiven. You know why? Because, yes, I'm right. You shouldn't have hit me and bumped into me like that. You should have said sorry, but I want to be happy right now. And I'd rather be happy, which is just to forget about what happened. So a child has the amazing quality of focusing on their happiness as opposed to focusing on the aspect of forgiveness. So a lot of times we want to forgive so that we can be happier. That makes sense. Does that make sense to everyone here? You'd forgive so that you let off your chest all that grudge that you've been holding about that other person. Finally, I can see my neighbor again. I can smile. I can know that I can walk into my house knowing that if I see my neighbor, they're going to smile to me. I'll smile to them. It's a headache to not forgive. That's one level of forgiving. Then there's another level of forgiving. There's another level of forgiving, which is, I'll forgive just because you asked me. And that's what we're talking about here. Okay? Salachti kidvarecha v'over al pesha. God forgives because you asked. That's what it is. So we have to ask and God forgives. Right? Ki mecha haselicha, we say, God, you have forgiveness. Meaning, you don't do it through somebody else. You take the charge of forgiveness. And that's how we need to be as well. If somebody does something wrong to us, right? And we say, okay, I want to forgive him. I want to help him. I want to move on. And I want to forgive in a way where I myself have said, I admit and I give you forgiveness. Okay, let's go to the next one. Number four, I don't think I'm going to go through all 13, but we'll try. Number 4 is, not only does he forgive us, it says, Lish'erit nachalato. Lish'erit nachalato, which means he stays in a relationship with us. He empathizes with us. When I do something wrong and I'm in pain, let's say a parent sees that their child is going in the wrong path, taking drugs, bad friends, right? A good parent, because they're a parent, would be in pain when the kid's in pain. By the fact that they see that their kid is not happy, it makes the parent not happy. The parent doesn't say, oh, goodbye, you're out of here. Hopefully they don't say that. You're gone, done. No, I'm in pain that what's bothering you, my son? Why are you in such a situation? You're in pain. Why? Why are you in pain? So, obviously, the child himself needs to take ownership of his situation. As much as we can help and try and help, the person that's in the pain themselves needs to take care of the situation. But what we say about God is b'chol tzaratam lo tzar. Whatever pain we go through is a pain for God. At the end of the day, the world works in a way where there's a system, just like the sun has a time where it comes out in the moon and the stars. There's also a system in the world that when bad things happen, when bad things are done, then there's a repercussion for our actions. Karma has to work in this world. That's the way the world works. It's not because of God, it's just the way that world works. So at the end of the day, it hurts God for him when we are in pain, wherever it is, when we're in a place that we shouldn't be, when we're doing things that are wrong. So what does that mean for us? Well, first of all, it means that he's in a relationship with us. He doesn't say, oh, you're messing up, I leave you. But that's also how we should be with our friends, okay? He says, I'm quoting, by the way, a book by Rav Moshe Cordovero, who lived in the 16th century. He was a Kabbalistic rabbi, lived in Tzfat, and he wrote many books on Kabbalah, and this is one of them. This is a very Kabbalistic, by the way, concept, what we're teaching right now. So he wrote that, how does that translate to us? So when it comes to forgiveness, I don't really forgive, I remain in a relationship with you. What does that mean? So he says here that what it means is that when I see my friend doing well, I'm happy for their success. When I see that they're failing, I'm upset for their failure. That's exactly what it means. V'ahavta l'recha kamocha. Love your friend like yourself. What does that mean, love your friend? The same way I will be happy for my success, I'm happy for theirs. By the way, you can force yourself, it's called ayin tova, a good eye. Force yourself to say, I'm so happy for your new house. Right? When I got my new glasses and my grandmother in Israel, this is what titchadshu, that's how they'd say in Hebrew. Have a renewed feeling, enjoy that new feeling, they say. And then they say, shetir'eh bahem rak dvarim tovim. You should merit to see with these glasses only good things. I love that blessing. See, that's how we should be speaking to other people. Oh, you've got a new home? You should only be using it and enjoying it for good things. You should only have smachot, happy things in your home. Use that moment to bless the person as opposed to cursing them out, not necessarily directly, but saying, how did he get that? How did he get the money to pay for that house? Like the backyard and the swimming pool. And instead of saying that, use that energy to bless them. Boom. Game changer. It says, Ayin Tova, Hu Yevorach. If you have that energy where you bless someone, even though you think, I want the same thing, right? Jealousy should really be coming in, but instead you channel it for a blessing. It says, you will get the same blessing as well. You'll get the same blessing. You see someone with a nice Ferrari, if that's what you really want, right? So you say to them, hey, nice Ferrari. You should only have blessings and safety and goodness in it. And it should always be used for your benefit and love. And then Hashem will give you that blessing as well. Maybe not directly as a Ferrari, but in some way you will get that blessing as well. So what we want to have is that attribute. Just like God stays in a relationship and is in pain when we're in pain, we need to be in pain when somebody else is in pain, or when somebody else is succeeding, we need to be happy for them. Not talking negatively about them. I'm not talking positively. Speaking positively when they are successful. That's what we want to do. Okay? So that's called being in that relationship. That's the attribute of lish'erit nachalato, staying in a relationship, empathizing with us. The next thing is lo hechezik la'ad apo. God does not hold his anger forever. So how does this translate to people? And then I'll go back to how God works, okay? He doesn't keep his anger forever. What does that mean? So here's something very interesting, okay? When it comes to human beings, you might find that someone does something bad to you and makes you upset, right? What should you do? So you get upset with them, or that's normal, it's human. So number 5 is, doesn't hold on to his anger forever. Okay, even though God doesn't get angry, but he doesn't hold on to his to the negative action that you did forever. Okay, so he doesn't. How would you say it in English better? Maybe there's a better way of translating. I'm literally translating the words. Okay, so lo hechazik la'ad apo means. Let me just. Explain how we should as humans have this as well. This means, I went to the wrong page here a second. So this means, what does it mean that God doesn't keep to this forever? It means like this. Oh, this is brilliant. So sometimes where somebody bothers you or does something wrong, and you tell them off, you rebuke them, right? And you say, brother, you should not have done that. That's really bad. And then we feel like we need to really dig into that rebuke, that was really wrong. No, I want you to sit down for a second. I want to tell you how wrong that is. And you get deep into it. You get further and further. No, that was really, no, I want you to know, that was really wrong. You know how we sometimes do that? We make that conversation with somebody. We rebuke them and then we continue because we feel bad or we feel like, I need to explain why I rebuked them. So one of the things that we should do is, lo hechazik la'ad apo. Don't bear or don't carry that anger forever. Don't drag, if you rebuke, this is, by the way, very important because it's so connected to cancel culture. Cancel culture means that that person's reputation is ruined forever. But that's not what he deserves. He deserves a small rebuke. If the restaurant doesn't give me the food on time, they deserve a small rebuke. If a person speaks in a way that's racist, let's say, they don't deserve to lose their entire life. They deserve a rebuke. So you give them exactly what they need and nothing more. That's called lo chazik la'ad apo. This is so important, especially in relationships. Be'ezrat Hashem, when everyone gets into a healthy and strong and important relationship, and I'm talking about marriage, at that point, you will notice that you know, because you're with that person all the time, non-stop. That's a lot of time together. So you'll notice where there's things that are bothering you and you feel the importance to express that something's bothering you today, right? You'll feel that important. But, okay, no problem. Explain what's bothering. Don't dig too deep into how it's a problem and how you need to rebuke. If you made that rebuke, make it. That's it. Then move on. This is such a godly concept. I make the rebuke and I stop there. I don't get or dig too deep into that rebuke. Okay, so that's number 5. Number 6 is ki chafetz chesed hu. God wants kindness. Okay, what does that mean, that he wants kindness? So this means that when I see somebody who is not so nice to me or is a bit rude, or even my child does something wrong. Let's say I come home and I see that my child, my youngest now, he loves to take a pen, a marker, and go everywhere with the marker. My couch suddenly, everything has got, my shirts hanging on the, to dry, suddenly got permanent marker everywhere, the wall. It's really brutal. So we have to tell him off, right? So that's important. It's important to rebuke him, but it's also at that moment I need to focus on his chesed, on something good about that kid. He is I love doing this to my kids. He's a good boy. He's really a good boy. When he's really naughty, I say, no, he shouldn't do that. That's so bad. But he really is a good boy. I rebuke him, and then I always throw him. But he really is. He's a good boy. He's a good boy. And then it gets into his brain like, I am a good boy. Oh, I'm a good boy. And he starts changing. He becomes a good boy because I just said he's a really good boy. So, and I mean it because I do think of all the good things he does. So it's the same with all relationships. If you have somebody that's not so well spoken to you, they're a bit rude, what we want to do is chafetz chesed hu. Try and find the chesed in that person. But you know what? It's true they're just not, they're not well spoken and they're very rude. But you know what? They have such a kind gesture to them. There's some virtues that they have which are just awesome. Yeah, they're so generous. So you focus on that generous attribute that they have. That's what God does. It's true that we do tons of mistakes, and we're told there was times where the Jews were meant to be wiped out after the destruction of the temple. It says that there was no reason. They were just terrible. Then God says, no, but they have chesed. Hem gomlim chasadim elu. Elu. They are kind amongst each other. They serve idols. They don't believe in God. They don't do this. They don't do that. But they have chesed with each other. Let's focus on that. Can you imagine? That's what God does. So that's what we need to do as well. When we say ki chafetz chesed hu, God wants kindness. I need to think to myself that that's what I need to do. I say to myself on Yom Kippur, I want kindness as well. What does that mean? I want to see kindness in others, even if they're annoying to me. Focus on that attribute. By the way, this is God, so we're nowhere near like God. Okay, we're nothing. We fail in all of these big time. In all of these, which person here gives so much love to anybody non-stop. And then when someone does, that person, the same person that you, right, hurts your feelings or embarrasses you, you forgive them immediately. Which person could say they do that? Right? This is God. We're talking about the infinite being. But what we need to do is try, when we say these words, what we want to do is try and plug into that energy so that I can at least do Teshuva, which means I say, I want to be forgiven. What do I want to be forgiven in? I want to be like you. I want to have those energies. I want to be that. Even though it's virtually impossible to be like him because we are not the creator of the universe, but that desire can get me somewhere. Okay, so that's what we want to do, and it will get me to the point of Teshuva. Okay, we are on number 6 right now, which is that he wants kindness. Let's just do one more, number 7, and we will maybe continue another time. So number 7 is Yeshuv Yerachamenu. God not only forgives, but he's appeased with him, which means if a human gets bothered by somebody, right? At the end of the day, I forgive them, but the relationship's never the same, right? You ever heard that saying? The relationship's never the same. But not by God. Yeshuv Yerachamenu. Not only does he return his mercy, that's the translation, that's a better translation. Yeshuv Yerachamenu means he returns his mercy. So not only does he return his mercy to the way he was, he forgives you the way it was back then, but he actually puts you in a higher place than you were before. That's why it says, "B'makom sheba'alei tshuva omdim, en tzadikim gemurim yecholim la'amod." In a place where people repent, stand, even the greatest rabbis can't stand. So a Jew that never did anything Jewish before, and did Shabbat for the first time and started doing Shabbat is much holier than a Jew that always did Shabbat. Is on a higher level, is on a way higher level than someone who always grew up with it. Right? Somebody who does a mitzvah that they weren't growing up with and they started adapting to that good deed, that's on a way higher level than someone who was just born into it. Right? That's what we say. B'makom sheba'alei tshuva omdim, en tzadikim gemurim yecholim la'amod. So that's what it means, Yeshuv Yerachamenu. Can you imagine us forgiving someone, and not just forgiving, but saying, you know what, I'm going to love you more. Now, how do I get to that? How do I get to a point where not only do I forgive someone for doing wrong to me, but I actually get in a stronger relationship with them than I would have had beforehand? I like that person now more than I did before. How do you get to that? Do you know what it is? It's because you contemplate what it took that person to ask for your forgiveness. The humility, the breakdown that person went through to come to you and say, I want to ask you forgiveness. The change that person went through to come to you and say, I want to ask for forgiveness. That in itself deserves to be moved up. That's why we say that this world, in Kabbalistic terms, is like the letter Hey. Olam hazeh, Hey. And if you look at the Hey, there's a big hole at the bottom. And the Talmud explains, this is also in the Talmud, it explains that big hole in the bottom is all the desires of this world. We come into Hey, and we're born very beautiful, right up there in the middle of the Hey, and then slowly we get pulled out of the Hey by all the desires of this world, money, fame, likes on Facebook, Instagram, right? And we start getting pulled off the bottom of the Hey. And there's so many distractions that put us away from who we really want to be. And then what we say is that with tshuva, you can come back to that little yud on the Hey through the top. Can you notice there's 2 holes in a Hey? There's one at the bottom where you fall from, and there's another hole in the top. And the rabbis say, Kabbalistically, okay, the Hey has a hole at the bottom. So why doesn't people go in and out from that hole? You know, you fail, so you fall out the hole. You're like out of this world for a while. And then you come back in that hole, right? Why is the Hey open on 2 sides? Why does it have 2 doors? It should only have 1 door. It should be like a chet. And the hole is out. And if you want to return, you return back through the bottom hole. No, you can't return through the bottom hole. Because if you return, you're greater than the way you were before. Somebody who went through something bad, let's say, is a very angry personality. So he worked right? Anger is just a personality. But let's say he worked on it, and worked on it, and worked on it, and now came a person that overcame the anger. They're not going back through the same hole that they fell through. Now they're taking new precautions. They're taking new measures to avoid that anger. They've learned all the tools. That means they need to go through a new entrance. They get a new door right up from the top, because they've learned to overcome all of their challenges. They've learned so many things. They're way greater than if you fall from the bottom, you can't go back up from the bottom. You have to come back in from the top. There's a new entrance for you. That's what the hay represents. So what we need to do is also, when we forgive, not just forgive, but recognize that somebody went out of their way to ask for your forgiveness, that deserves me to also go out of my way to forgive. And that means to accept their forgiveness and to come in a stronger relationship with them than I was in a relationship with them in the first place. I'll end off with a story. Okay, I just did 7. We have some more to go, but I don't know how people can last for more than an hour. I don't even know how anyone listens to me for an hour anyway, but people do. But I'll finish off with a story of forgiveness, just that you should understand the greatness of real, true forgiveness. So I think the story is told with a rabbi called Rabbi Yisrael Misalant, a rabbi that lived in a place called Salant, and he was a very holy man, and he was traveling to a city far away, somewhere in Russia, and he was traveling to this city to go and visit and speak to the community. He traveled by train, and he was a very prominent rabbi, known to the entire Eastern European community. Thousands of people knew about him. He was like the hit. He was the greatest of his generation. And he was traveling on a train, a long journey, to go visit this town and to speak and inspire the people of that community. He was invited, and he went to speak to that community. He arrived to he went in the train, and as he's sitting on the train, there was another person that was on the train. And this person, every 5 minutes, saw the rabbi. He didn't know he's the rabbi. He thought he's just a regular person. And every 5 minutes, he told the rabbi, who looked like an old man, "Excuse me, why are you sitting over there by the window and leaving it closed? It's burning in here. Can you open the window?" 5 minutes later, he said, "It's too cold. Can you please close the window?" And 5 minutes later, "It's getting hot. Can you open the window?" The whole way, driving. And each time, this very holy rabbi got up, opened the window, closed the window, opened the window, closed the window. This man was traveling to the city because he wanted to meet the big rabbi. He wanted to come and meet this big rabbi. He didn't know who the rabbi was on the train, but he wanted to come meet the rabbi. Not only did he want to meet him, he said, "Listen, I want to get a smicha. I want to come. I don't have a business. I don't have money. And I want to work in an abattoir. I want to sell kosher meat. So in order to sell kosher meat, you have to have a kosher certification that you're able to slaughter in the proper way, in the most humane way possible. The animals, you have to have a special certification." He said, "Listen, if I go to that big rabbi and I get a document from him signed saying he's trustworthy for doing meat and owning a slaughterhouse, it's going to be the best recommendation ever. Everyone's going to take me and I'll make so much money." He spoke about this to his wife. He spent a bit of his money that he had left and went on this train. And on this train, he kept telling this man, this old man, "Please open the window, close the window, open the window, close the window, open the window, close the window," the whole way. Eventually, they arrive in the city, and as the train comes in, he sees thousands and thousands of Jews at the station. Thousands of Jewish people, the whole community is running to his train. And he's wondering, what's all the commotion? Why is everyone coming to this train? And he sees that old man that he kept telling to open or close the window was the man who was the rabbi that everyone came to welcome. And everyone was kissing his hand, saying, "Please, Rabbi, bless me." Thousands of people were swarming to see him and to get a blessing from him. And the guy turned white. He says to himself, "Oh my goodness. That's the man that I came to ask for a smicha, for a document for my business that I want to open. he's never going to give me anything. What am I going to do? So he says to himself, you know what? The rabbi's meant to be here for a week. I'm going to stay here for a week. The last day, I'll go to him. After he's met 10,000 people, the last day, I will go to him. And when I go to him, he'll for sure have forgotten me. So he waits till the end of the week, and he comes into where the rabbi is staying, and finally gets a meeting with him. On the last day, he walks in, and he says, hello, Rabbi. And the rabbi says, oh, very nice to see you again. I remember you from the train. And he's like, oh no, this is terrible. So he says to him, listen, Rabbi, I want to know if you can give me a semicha, a ordination, signing that I'm reliable for doing shechita. He said, Rabbi, I'm really sorry. I want to tell you, I apologize for what I did on the train. I never knew it's you. The rabbi says, okay, it's okay. He says, please, can you give me a signing that I'm good for doing the slaughter, for being a shochet. I'm reliable. So the rabbi says to him, I can't just give you a document signed. I need to test you. So he starts testing him. Within 5 minutes, he realizes this person doesn't know, not Aleph Bet, not Gimel Daled, nothing. Doesn't know any Judaism at all. He says to him, listen, I can't give you a smicha. It's just not possible. You don't know any of the rules. You don't know any of the basics of the Jewish laws. I can't give you a recommendation. Then the rabbi says to him, but I want to tell you, I have somebody that I can arrange who's a very reliable person in this community, and he will train you, and he would actually give you everything you need in order to become a shochet. And then once you finish training with him, I will give you the recommendation. So the student said, thank you, Rabbi. Thank you so much. Thank you. And the rabbi put him in touch with this other rabbi that's shochet who will train him. Rabbi Saul Misalant comes home, and his wife says to him, did you come back with the money? You know, you took some money, and I need some money as well. Did you come back with the money? So Rabbi Saul Misalant says, no, I'm sorry, I spent all that money that we had. She says, what do you mean you spent the money? I spent the money on this person that came who wanted to be trained onto doing shechita, to becoming a professional a slaughterer, if that's what you want to call him, in kosher meat certificate. He wanted to be trained on how to make food kosher, and I gave him the ordination. I gave him the training. I gave him the money, and I used that money for someone to train him. His wife says, what happened with this? Why would you give him the money? I don't understand. So the rabbi said, listen, the whole way to this place that I was traveling to, that student, that person kept asking me to open and close the window, open and close the window, open and close the window. And I felt that maybe he's going to think I'm angry with him. Maybe he's going to think that I'm angry, and I wanted to show him that I in no way, and I wanted to show myself in no way that I bear a grudge against this person. So in order to do that, I decided specifically for him, I'm going to pay for him to have training, and for someone to train him to actually become a shochet, to make sure that he knows, and I know, that I completely forgive him. And that's why I paid all that money from my own pocket. That story is exactly that's called godly forgiveness. That's forgiveness on its highest level. I remember a rabbi in Gateshead, Rabbi Avram Gorowitz, who is a rabbi that I'm still alive, very old man, and very, very holy and very special. And it's told about him, some say it's told about his father, that one time in the yeshiva, late at night, he was going into the library. So in the yeshiva, there's a library, massive library with thousands of books. And it's a very quiet room. And it was late at night, and he wanted to go there to read a specific book. He had a specific book that he had to go and read. And he walks into the library, and as he's about to get in, the rabbi, he finds that the door's held shut. And what happened was, it was a kid, one of the young kids in the school, that was holding the door shut. And he was having a water fight with his friend. He got his friend soaked, ran into the library, and held the door shut so his friend can't come in. And he hears the door knocking, someone knocking. And he's like, you can't come in, I'm not letting you in. And he hears again a silent knock. He's like, I know it's you, don't play games with me, okay? I'm not letting you in, I'm holding the door closed. He holds the door closed for another 5 minutes, and eventually he hears the rabbi say, listen, it's Avram Gurwitz. Who is it? Avram Gurwitz. It's the rabbi. It's the rabbi of the yeshiva. The guy went white. He's like, what am I going to do now? I held the door closed on the rabbi. It's so embarrassing. He quickly opens the door, but then he noticed the most amazing sight of his life. The rabbi went like this, walked into the room, took the book, walked out the room like this, so that the student wouldn't know, that he wouldn't know who that student was, and that student will never feel embarrassed because he never saw him. He literally went like this, walked to the place where the book was stored, took it, walked out, and never saw that student. The student was able to leave, knowing that he's not embarrassed, no one saw him, and he's completely calm. That's called forgiveness at its highest level. The rabbi didn't post on Facebook that the student is holding the door closed on me. How dare a student hold the door closed on me? Disgraceful. Didn't do that. The opposite. He worked in the way of forgiveness. That's the way that we need to at least aspire to. At least to the world of forgiveness. Let's turn out that energy. At least this year of Yom Kippur. Let's turn that energy of, I want to post this, I want to destroy this person's life, I want to get justice here. Instead, turn that energy to a place of forgiveness. And what happens is, that person that's in front of you will get the biggest lesson of his life. Trust me, that student that held that door closed for 5 minutes and saw the rabbi coming in like this, got the greatest lesson of his life. Never in his life is he ever going to try and make somebody embarrassed. You can't walk away from such a situation and not get a great lesson. That is the way to teach a message. Not in the other way of shaming. No one wants it to be done on them, so why are you doing it on somebody else? Anyway, so those are 7 of the attributes we went through. And there are another 8 more. But 6 more, sorry. Can't count. But that's it. There's 13 attributes altogether. And these attributes are all in the theme of finding a good quality in the person so I can forgive them as opposed to shaming them. And when we read those words, we want to absorb that energy in ourselves so that way we will be forgiven as well. The way you forgive others is the way you will be forgiven. The way you judge others is the way that you will be judged. So I'm going to take some questions, go off being live here a second, and have a discussion for a sec, but just let me
continue.
Really?
Yeah, why not? No, I mean, if anybody wants to leave, they can leave. Why not?
I know, I think it's late. It's like 9:45. I don't know.
Is it?
I don't know. Does anyone else want to?
If it's late for you, then you should go.
No, for me, I have another 15 minutes. I'm giving another talk in 15 minutes. I have no problem talking a lot longer. But it is late, it's late for some. But maybe we could do another night. What do you think? Should we do another night? Maybe we could do Motzei Shabbat, Saturday night, maybe. I don't know. That could be a good idea. Let me just